friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So today I look a little weird, and that's because we are filming a Talktorial Tuesday. I'm really excited to do this. I haven't gotten to do a Talktorial Tuesday in like a hot minute, and I'm very excited that I actually get to sit down and film one of these again. If you're new, this was a pretty consistent series that I did on my channel up until January of this past year, and then I broke my wrist and I kind of stopped doing it. I've sprinkled them in here and there, but I'm really hoping that this will be the start of getting back into filming those every week because I do love filming them, and it gives me a good excuse to just play with makeup, talk to you guys, and play with some new palettes. So today's palette is the Sigma Core de Rosa palette, and this is from Sigma Beauty, obviously. If you watch my Yas or Pas series, you'll know that I actually did talk about this in my Yas or Pas video, and I passed it. However, Sigma actually reached out to me, and they were like, hey, we saw your video. We saw that you passed. Could we send you the palette just to get your opinion on it and also send you a couple other things? And I was like, oh my god, fun. Like, yes, of course I'm willing to try it. And they sent this to me along with 3 massive PR packages of brushes, and I literally couldn't even fit all of the stuff they sent in one picture because they sent so many brushes. I have pretty much all of the brushes they've ever made at this point, and I've been using the Sigma brushes. Their flat top Kabuki foundation brush is like my new holy grail favorite foundation brush. I've been using it for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. Love. And they also sent me their like contour palette and their blush palette, which I'm wearing their blush palette right now. But the big thing I wanted to review and show you guys is the Sigma palette. I did say in my video that this reminded me a lot of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Carly by Belle palette, and now seeing it in person, I definitely don't get that vibe anymore. It's definitely different. I had that palette, I recently sold it, but I did get a chance to kind of compare the two, and it definitely is different than that palette. It's not, I think the pictures were a little misleading in that some of these shades looked a little different than they actually are. But today I just want to play around with this palette. I've played around with it a couple times and I do like it. I don't think it's like groundbreaking or like revolutionary, but I think it's a cute, fun little warm tone palette, and these 2 shimmers up here are like really pretty. So I'm gonna zoom you guys in a little bit and we will just get started. And mostly what I want to talk about today is my college graduation, because I feel like I was gonna make a whole video about it and then I just didn't, so now this is what we're doing. Hi! Funny seeing you here. My base looks so good. Wait, I used the new, well, I guess it's a little bit older now, but it's new to me, the Milani foundation, the new one they came out with. Okay. Normally I'm like, oh, my base only looks good because it's a camera and like lights, but like honestly in person this looks so flawless right now. You know what this reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the Modern Renaissance palette. I think that's what I would compare it to. So hi, how's everyone been? I've been, you know, I graduated from college. Yay! And I started my master's already. Yay! My master's degree actually started this past week, and I'm really just taking 1 class right now, which is nice. It's still kind of a break because I really don't have a lot to do for it. Master's classes, I can already tell the difference in, it's much more like reading intensive and then showing that you've done the reading over the course of like 3 weeks versus like doing the reading and then also having like a bunch of mini papers due. It's much more like project focused, at least for this first class it is, which is kind of interesting. But I did graduate. I'm gonna go into the shade Hybrid with that same fluffy brush just to give myself a little bit of a crease color. I did graduate. Craziness happened. I ended up basically the last 2 months of my semester were obviously completely derailed because of COVID, as like everybody who was graduating or just in college in general was. But I had a lot of projects that were like really big projects in particular get derailed, but it ended up actually being a really good learning experience. I think a big thing about social work that especially I'm learning, a big thing about social work that they always talk to us about is like you have to be flexible. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be kind of like, you want to be like a bendy straw. Like you want to be able to adapt to anything that anything that gets thrown at you, because in this field and in this profession, so many crazy things are going to get thrown at you and so many different things, and like you just have to be kind of ready for that. So if anything, I was like, well, this is a really good test of flexibility and being really flexible with how things go. So I tried to take it as like a little bit of a learning experience, but we were all very stressed, obviously. Like all of us were kind of freaking out. I'm gonna go in with Core de Rosa, which is obviously the shade named after the palette. I'm gonna focus that more on the inner corner. I know a big thing that I personally was really worried about when I came on the channel to talk about it was I had this thing called the macro project, which was like my big final project basically that needed to be done. And it involved putting literally the whole premise of this entire class that they have been talking to us about for the past year, like 2 years of our undergrad. This is our big last thing, is this macro project where we have to put together a large scale community event. And obviously none of us could put together our large scale community events. So it threw a little bit of a wrench in everyone's plans. And mine actually pretty much completely changed. It went from being I was going to do a presentation to kids on digital citizenship and basically how I was working at a school. So it was going to be the importance of your presence online, having a good online presence, knowing the dangers that the online world can bring, and just how to navigate the internet in a smart way that's not going to negatively impact you, basically. And I was really excited about that because it's something I'm really, really passionate about, is kids' safety online. So hype. And I couldn't do it, obviously. I think I didn't realize how, and this might sound dumb, but I think when you do something a lot, you don't always realize that it might be something that like is a little bit more unique. I'm gonna go in with this shade Damask right here, this like pink shade. I don't know if this sounds like dumb, but I think I didn't realize, because when I heard that I might have to do things digitally, like turn my project into a digital like thing, I was like, oh, that's really not a problem. Like I'll just film a YouTube video, basically, I'll edit it. Like it wasn't a big thing for me as much once I knew that was an option. And I realized that a lot of my cohort, that like was a really massive challenge, the idea of transitioning all of their stuff online, because most people don't know how YouTube works and most people don't know how to like live stream or how to effectively like fundraise on YouTube or how to work Twitter and Instagram. Most of my classmates didn't even have Twitters. And so my professor, who also didn't really know a ton about social media, was like, why don't we use she knew about my YouTube channel, and she was like, why don't we use your kind of job that you already do, and that can be your macro project, is teaching others how to successfully implement a macro level project, a macro level campaign on social media. Let's, utilize your skill set here. So I ended up advising a lot of the kids in my classes and in other classes on how to successfully complete an online social media campaign for their project, what they were trying to do. And then I also ended up I had created a slideshow for future classes on social media and how to effectively utilize it for macro practice. And then I also wrote I had to like do a lot of stuff to compensate for the fact that I wasn't doing like an event. So I also ended up creating a like guidebook that I'm so proud of. It's like my little baby. I'm gonna go in with the shade Summer Song and just kind of try to pack that on the outer corner and maybe like go out a little bit, blow it out a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I ended up doing all of that and passed class. My professor was really happy with it, which is always great. And it actually like inspired me low-key of like ways I've always I used to look at, I don't know how to say this without sounding negative, but I definitely used to look at YouTube as maybe a possible hindrance in my future career, of it might be hindering to have a social media platform, because some people definitely could view this as like an unprofessional thing. Even just sitting here right now talking about like my life could be deemed unprofessional, commentating on other people's lives could definitely be deemed that way. But it gave me kind of inspiration in the fact that this is actually a really huge benefit, especially considering how important social media is becoming. And since I want to do more macro level, large scale social work in the future, I don't necessarily want to be like a person that has clients and does one-to-one case counseling, because while I respect that and I like it, it's not really my like what I love doing. I love doing macro. I actually am now kind of seeing this as like, and my teacher said this too, she was like, you should be seeing this as a massive benefit for you because you have a skill set that is very unique. You actually know what you're doing with social media. So I did think that was cool. I'm really happy that all ended well. And I ended up doing really well in all of my final classes and everything, which was great, because for a minute there, when everything transferred to online, I was like, and I like panicked and was like not able to do work. And luckily I talked to my professors about everything and like they were all fine with it. Basically, when I had a friend, this is such a complicated story, but I feel like I wanted this video to be like talking about my entire college career, but honestly, the last 2 months were so nutty, just because like once I had a friend get diagnosed with COVID, it was like, and because I have a fiance who's high risk and I had been in contact with that friend like in the past 2 weeks before he had gotten diagnosed, it honestly sent me and my fiance into a bit of a tailspin and was a little bit stressful. So once we were in the clear for that, everything got better, but like at that point, very, very stressful. This was right too when COVID was starting to become really, really prevalent in America. So it was definitely like a lot all at once. Everything ended great. Like I ended up winning a departmental award for activism, which was like so freaking cool. And just like exactly the award I would have wanted to win if I had any desire to win an award, if I had even known those existed, which I didn't. It kind of made me like reflect upon everything it took to get to this point. And I feel like I do want to talk about it because I do feel like having a platform. I think a lot of people thought because I posted graduation pictures, because I did still want to celebrate in some way. And I think a lot of people thought, I saw some people being like, oh, I thought you were like in your mid-20s. And they assumed that I was like 21 and graduating or whatever. I am in my mid-20s, I'm 25. And I did just get my bachelor's degree, like I just finished that. And I know that technically for people who kind of have a more traditional way through college, it's like you start going to college at 18 and then you get your bachelor's degree at 21. And then you either get a job and start working, or you go on to like master's, doctorate, like whatever you're gonna do, right? And I definitely had a very unconventional path to get to this point of just the bachelor's degree. I know a lot of other people have also had super unconventional paths to get to their degrees, and I want to like normalize that, because you guys know I'm a huge advocate for education, and I feel like there's this misconception that if you don't go when you're young, you've like missed the boat. You can't go back. You couldn't, and like while it is hard, like when I was going to community college, I feel like I felt it way more. I was in classes as a 22-year-old with like 18-year-olds and taking like 100 level classes with 18-year-olds and who were fresh out of high school, like still in all of it. And I remember being like, oh my God, I just felt so like out of place and out of touch. I just felt like all of my friends who I'd gone to high school with were graduating college right as I was starting. And it was the most discouraging feeling because I was happy for my friends. I was so happy that like they had finished their bachelor's degrees, but they literally finished like just the way the timing worked, because I took 3 years off after my first initial year of like trying to go. And I was so discouraged like watching my friends graduate, and like I was just starting. I'm gonna go Belle of the Ball, which is one of my favorite shades. It's this beautiful like champagne to blue kind of duochrome that's really pretty. So I was watching all of that happen and watching my friends graduate, and also at the same time, like it just feels, I feel like when you start especially, your diploma feels so far away. Like the diploma feels like it's 4 years feels like such a long time, especially when you're just starting. And for me, when I first went to college, if you don't know the story, I guess I haven't told it in a long time, but when I first went to college, I was 18 and I just graduated high school, and I applied to so many colleges when I was applying because I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, which was should have been such a red flag, that I like didn't even know where I wanted to go because I didn't care what I was doing. And at the time, in my town especially, because I lived in a really small town, there absolutely was a really large stigma, I feel, around community college, where I feel like people judged people who went to community college. It was like kind of looked down upon if you were going to go to community college, which looking back is so dumb, because that would have been the best thing for me at that point in my life. But I was looked down upon, so when I got into a 4-year university, I like leaped on the chance. And I went, and I was a communications major, which, I guess technically I kind of do stuff like that now, like communication-y stuff. I'm also going to take high society, this kind of dark pink, and just like kind of blend out the outer edges of this. But so I was a communications major and I hated it. I didn't go to any of my classes basically. I had some horrible, horrible stuff happen that first year of college that just like really derailed my life. And I basically turned into literally an alcoholic. And like, that's not a joke. Literally became like an alcoholic, dropped out because I had like my second semester, I didn't drop any of my classes, which was the biggest mistake I've ever made. And I didn't drop any of the classes and I had like a 0.0 GPA. And technically I didn't get kicked out. Technically I was on probation, but I bounced, like I left. And I didn't go back, and I went to rehab that summer and I got sober, and that was like great. And then I went to Nepal, which at the time, which honestly, like looking back on, is such an insane thing to have happened. Because I went doing like no research. I have a whole story time about Nepal and like my time there. Let's do Shakespeare right here. And let's just kind of buff it out to darken up this outer corner a little. Really only went because I didn't have any other options. Like I could either go to Nepal and like do this trip, or there was nothing else for me to do really, that felt like something, you know? So I went to Nepal and I came back, and I had worked with kids while I was over there, and I realized, I was like, oh, I really love working with kids, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna work at a daycare center. Like, I'm gonna do that. And I worked at this one daycare center. I was still living with my parents, and I was commuting 45 minutes to this daycare center because I lived in the middle of nowhere, and I literally lived in the woods. And I was commuting 45 minutes to this daycare center, and I just hated my life. Like, I was so miserable. And during this time is when I developed my anxiety disorder, so I was just like literally a mess. And I ended up having to quit my job because they wouldn't give me hours, and also I couldn't drive 45 minutes to get to work because I would have such severe anxiety about driving that I like couldn't get to work. I'm gonna mix Damask and hybrid together. So all of that was happening. I developed like this severe anxiety disorder as a result of like all of this trauma that had happened that I like wasn't dealing with, and all of this stuff. And then everything was happening. I spent basically a year just doing nothing with my life, like literally nothing. Like there was no, I don't really talk about this year because it was kind of just like a haze of like sadness and like anxiety, but I basically spent a year doing literally nothing with my life. Didn't have a job, felt like I couldn't work. I was like living with my parents, and I just felt like at the lowest point. Like I felt like the worst. And then I ended up moving to Rochester, funnily enough, not for Charles. I was actually dating another guy for like 2 months, and I moved up here because he was moving up here, and it seemed like a good idea because I was like 20 and an idiot, but it ended up actually being like the best decision I ever made. So I can't even really knock that decision that 20-year-old Hannah made because it was like actually a good one. But I moved up here and I like got my first little apartment, broke up with that guy. We weren't dating anymore, and I had this job at a daycare center. And I remember at that daycare center, because I worked there significantly longer, and I actually liked working at that daycare center until the end, when things got bad. But I remember I was always like drawn to the kids who were like the problem kids. Okay, that's what they would call them. Like the kids who very obviously had like things going on at home, or the kids who, you know, needed kind of an extra support in the classroom. Like those were the kids I was always so drawn to at the daycare center. And because I was working as I was a float basically. So I would just pop around all the different rooms. I got to know all of the kids and all of their parents really well, and I just like loved working with those kids. I particularly loved working with kids who needed extra support. Like I just had a love for it. I was like, screw it, I'm not doing anything else. Charles, we had just started dating, and he was getting his bachelor's degree. He was finishing up his bachelor's, and he was like, why don't you go back to college? Like, why don't you try it? You have time. I mean, you could do part-time at like community college. And literally the best decision I ever made was buckling down. I had tried going back to college, I'm not kidding, in those years that I just talked about where I was like working, not working, having anxiety, not doing anything with my life. I was going back to college, like attempting to make attempts to go back to college during that time. Like I'm pretty sure I went to 3 separate different community colleges during that time to like try and start again, and I just couldn't do it. Like it wasn't that I wasn't necessarily smart enough, it was that, and this is the big thing about college, is I feel like people think they're not smart enough. It's really just about the amount of effort you're willing to put in. Like I was not willing to put in the effort that it required for me to pass my classes, because I was taking classes. It was like English 101, Math 101. Oh my God, math, that was awful too. I had to take all of these non-credited math classes to get to a point where they would let me take the credited math class because I scored so badly on my tests to like take math. They were like, yeah, we're not gonna actually let you take any real math classes until you can prove to us that you know how to multiply correctly, because I was just so bad at math. And like it was a lot of work. time I spent at my community college, I probably honestly spent more time working than I did than once I got to my 4-year. Because once I got to my 4-year school, and that was a whole thing too. Now that I'm really thinking about it, every step of the way, it was like, and there was another roadblock. There was another problem. But it's like, that's just how it was for me. And I tell this story not to be like, oh, look at how resilient I am. Look at how I persevered. Like, I had a lot of privilege going into this whole situation in the sense that I had a family who was willing to financially support me. I had a boyfriend at the time. He's obviously my fiance now, but like I had a boyfriend who was very obviously very supportive of me emotionally and really helped me with things I didn't understand. I had a lot of support factors going into this that made it so this was possible for me. But I don't want to tell this to be like, look at me, I'm so great. But I tell the story because I basically was finishing up at my community college and I wanted to transfer to the local 4-year college, which was Brockport. I've done a sponsored video with them. Hi, if you're watching this. But I wanted to go there and they denied me. They were like, no sis, you actually can't come here because of that time when you were 18 and you got a 0.0 GPA. We actually count that. And even though at your community college you're getting 4.0s, that actually doesn't count for anything because you still got a 0.0. So I am just not that type of girl that takes things lying down. So they said that to me. They were like, you will never get accepted here, basically. And I said, oh, okay. So I emailed the dean of the college. And who am I? Like, why did I do, whatever. Good decisions. Like, standing up for yourself is never a bad thing. Especially in situations like this where you're trying to, like, get what you want in life. Like, do whatever you can to get what you want in life. Don't break the law, obviously. But, I remember I emailed the dean of the college, basically, and was like, hi, here's my life story. And, like, I told her everything I just told you guys, basically, in greater detail, and was just like, I told her all these things, and I was like, this is my one thing I want to do. I have worked so hard at this community college specifically so I can do this and go to your college, and this is all I want. She was like, hi, first of all, that was a lot. Second of all, if you want to still come here in a semester, if you can work really hard and get another like really good GPA at your community college and you can get one more semester of consistently good grades, then it will not be a problem to have you admitted. Like, email me, show me that you can get those grades and we'll figure it out. And I was like, amazing. So that whole last semester, I like worked my ass off. I got a 4.0, which is saying a lot considering I was taking a philosophy class at the time that was just like, oh my God. So I like worked really hard, got a really good grade that semester, and the admissions department was like, oh my God, congratulations, you're in. But then they were like, psych, actually you're into the college, but to get into the social work department, which is the major that you want to be, that you've just spent the last 1.5 years working towards, you actually can't go there. They're not going to let you in because you have to have an even higher GPA to get into that program than you do to get into the college. And unfortunately, you're never going to meet that GPA. So unfortunately, we're not going to let you into that. And I said, what? I will never forget. I was in Florida because I was on vacation when they called me and they were like, you got in? And I was like, yes. And they were like, but you can't do social work. And I was like, I'll never forget the admissions woman on the phone being like, so what other major do you want to do? What other career path do you want to go down? As if it was like a split-second decision I could make of like, what major do I want to pick that's not this one? Because they literally would not allow me to be social work. I was like, I don't know. So I was like, communications? So all of a sudden I was a communications major again for a minute. And so I emailed the head of the social work department, the department chair, and was like,
it's the remix.
And I basically sent her in much even lengthier at this point because I had to talk about why social work was important to me. Sent her a very long email about how much being in the social work department would mean to me, how hard I've worked, like my whole journey to get here, and like basically begging to let me pay them thousands of dollars to attend their school. And thankfully she was like, hey, apply, see what happens. She was like, you should definitely apply, and was very nice to me. I actually saw her again. I'd never met this professor up until like a month ago, or up until a few months ago. It was right before COVID happened. And I was going to my advisor's office and she was like, Hannah, have you met Dr. Blank? And I was like, I have not met you, but you know so much about me. I don't think she probably remembered that email, but like maybe she did, I don't know. But she was very nice. And eventually, after a lot of trial and tribulation, I did end up getting into the social work department. And honestly, the last 2 years after getting into this department have flown by. It's so crazy to look back at papers that I would write or ways that I used to think. Even watching my old videos, it's kind of funny because I really started making videos right before I started at my 4-year college. So it's kind of interesting to even watch really old videos and hear like my line of thinking and how I would think about things. And it's crazy to be able to chronologically see how differently I think about things now. And not even that, but how much more just like educated on certain topics I am now. I don't know. It's been a weird journey. It's been a long journey. It's taken literally from the time I started when I was 18 to now 7 years to actually say I have a bachelor's degree, but I do. And but I don't know. Now that I'm like reflecting on it, I'm like, oh my God, it feels like such a sordid tale. But at the time it's never felt like that when you're living in it. I feel like when you compile it all together, you're like, oh my God. But like when you think about it, the way that it was happening, it just was my life. It's how everything worked out for me. And like, do I sometimes wish I had been able to just go to college at 18 and finished? Like just gone straight through, gotten my degree, like with all my friends and like just done it. Like, of course, sometimes I wish that, because I do sometimes feel insecure about the fact that I'm like 25 and I'm like just finishing my degree. But at the same time, no, I'm so happy I didn't continue on with a communications degree that I know I genuinely would not have given a shit about when I graduated. Like, I know that I wouldn't have cared about communications when I graduated because I didn't even care about it when I was starting. Somebody just said I would be a really good publicist, so I did public relations. Like, that's literally literally what happened. I still think I would make a great publicist though. I just genuinely am so happy where everything, I think that's what the moral is. Every bad thing that happened and every amazing, beautiful thing that happened kind of twisted together to create the experience I had that led me to a career that I know I'm going to love and led me to get educated on things that I deeply needed to be educated on. And that's just like a really awesome thing. Like, that's just a really cool thing, you know? And I think it is easy to look at other people around you and compare yourself to them and compare yourself to the fact that like my best friend, one of my best friends graduated from her master's a year before I even finished my bachelor's. She had a master's degree. And of course, I was self-conscious about that because it's like, I'm not even done with my bachelor's and here you are with your master's degree. But, and not that I wasn't happy for her, but you know what I mean? But it was like hard for me. Like, I was like, wow, what is wrong with me that I couldn't just do what she did and like go straight through for 6 years and like do it? And what I realized was like she had her journey, which was exactly where she was supposed to be. She figured out exactly what she wanted to do and was able to do it. And that was just her path. Like, she figured that out through going to college. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do from staying at that initial college. There was no way I would have figured that out. I know it sounds really cliche to be like, oh, we're all on our own journeys and we're all, you know, going around the path we're supposed to be on. But it's like, no, really, like, you are on the path that you are supposed to be on that's going to take you to where you need to go eventually. Even if in the moment it feels like you are just failing. Because I have so many times in my life in the past 7 years been like, Hannah, you are just fucking failing. Like, honestly, even in the past 2 months, I felt that way. So sometimes it does just feel like that, but I promise you're not. And this isn't supposed to be like a big push of like, the only way to learn is through college, because it's never what I say, but also I am an advocate for college. I am an advocate for higher education. I think it opens your mind in a lot of ways that I think is kind of cool. If you've taken anything away from this video, regardless of your age, if you're thinking about going back to college or you like are about to go to college and you just don't really know what you want to do, do, but you know you want to do it, for the love of God, go to a community college for 2 years. I don't know why there was ever a stigma that community colleges were not absolutely fantastic, but they are. I would not have gotten my degree without going to community college first. It prepared me for my 4-year school, and I paid a fraction of the price going to my community college. In some states, they're free now. I paid a fraction of the price going to my community college and getting just like my basics out of the way. Like my math credits, where I had to take a bunch of uncredited classes to take the credited one. Had I been going to a 4-year, I would have had to pay crazy amounts of prices to do all of that. But because I was lucky enough to be at a community college, it cost a fraction of the price. Getting electives out of the way that you know are not going to pertain to your major at a cheaper price at a similar level of education is like invaluable, especially if you don't really know what you want to do, or you just want to like test it out first. Or you're like me and you keep trying to go back and you can't because you have commitment issues. I don't know. I gotta end this video here. This palette's really fun. I actually freaking love the look I made. I wasn't paying attention at all, but I think the actual eyeshadow look, we'll do a quick narcissistic montage. My lip gloss is a little goopy, which is weird because it's the Fenty Gloss in Sweet Mouth. This normally is not goopy, but it's probably me. I never want to blame Rihanna for anything because she's just so great. Play Rain on Me on Spotify.
Rain on Me with Ariana Grande by Lady Gaga from Spotify.
Wow, what a bop. All right, friends, that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know down below your college experiences. I don't know. How's everyone doing? Sorry this was like a long video, but kind of just what it turned into. I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, I'm just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I just put on my face, including this palette, which I do think is cute. I don't know if you would like need to run out and go buy it, but if you're interested in these like warm toned reds and oranges, if you don't already have anything like it, I did just declutter my Modern Renaissance, so I do feel like this is kind of a nice replacement. It's kind of like a Modern Renaissance remix a little bit. So I do really like this. So this will also be linked down below, along with everything else I put on my face, and a link to register to vote. Click on that link, register to vote, become an active part of your democracy. It's like super fun or something. And if you're not from the United States, that link does not apply to you. Please make sure you're staying informed on what's going on, using your voice in a positive way, because we love to see it. And the world needs more of it. And also, because of everything going on, please social distance if you can. Follow your state and counties and your country's regulations regarding COVID. Social distance if you can. And please wear a mask. Stop being annoying about wearing masks. It's annoying. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!